Well, Ontario's food retail landscape is very competitive, with players vying for our food dollars. With the imminent closing of Target, once again, the market is expected to shift. Joining us now for more on our food retailers and what their actions mean to our stomachs is Sarah Kaplan. She's a professor of strategic management at U of T's Rotman School of Management. Also with us, Bruce Philp, business strategist and author of Consumer Republic, and George Condon, consulting editor with Canadian Grocer. Welcome to all of you. Welcome back, Bruce. Nice to have you all here. George, you've been covering the Canadian grocery market for 37 years, is that what you said?
Yeah, 37.
37 years.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to go over all those 37. But how has the Canadian market generally changed over the for grocery stores over the last 15?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier, but 37 years ago, there were probably 25 different chains in Canada. And right now, we've got 3 big chains and perhaps 8 small independent chains. So it's been a concentration, continually concentrating, and more competitive.
Okay, the big 3, Loblaws, Metro, Sobeys, I'm guessing?
Yep.
Okay. Sarah, what have you noticed as you look at the retail landscape for grocery stores? What's changed for you in the last decade or two?
Well, I think that the consolidation is the number-one story, and that's absolutely making things more competitive. But on top of that, I would say that there's been the growth in ethnic foods, and what we're seeing, obviously Canada with its large immigrant population means that ethnic foods are going to become more important, and we see some of the large retailers getting into that, and like Loblaws buying T&T, and so I think we're going to see now the same consolidation that George just described in the regular grocery. We're going to see also in ethnic foods, and that also means ethnic is going to go more into the mainstream grocery stores as well.
Is this a Canadian thing? Like, do we only see this in Canada, this sort of consolidation, the big 3 kind of thing?
Well, certainly to the degree it's been in Canada, that's the Canadian spin on it. There's concentration in parts of the United States, like Hispanic markets and that kind of thing, but they're limited to states. This is nationwide in Canada, and ethnic. I mean, one of the brand new competitive retailers in Canada is the Asian supermarkets. Like for instance, right now, and in the past 3 years, there's been about 90 Asian supermarkets opened up in the Greater Toronto area. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, and they're adding more competition.
Okay, when we look at, food's a big business any way you cut it. George, what are the margins? When we talk about margins, what do the grocers typically make selling food? Are they big? Super big?
No.
Tiny?
Grocery margins are minuscule. I mean, if a grocer today can do 2%, they're ecstatic.
2%?
2%. That's everything in. That's their net profit would be 2%. A lot of them are doing 1% or a little bit less. But the trick, of course, for groceries, if you buy 1 can of peas for 98 cents, the grocer maybe makes a penny. So what the grocer has to do is sell 100,000 cans of peas to make any money. And that's what the whole grocery industry is based on: volume, volume.
Why are margins so low, though? I mean, you could mark up things, make bigger margins.
Well, no, but no, you can't, because your competitor is going to force you to keep it low. And the other thing is, ever since the recession of 2008, Canadians have been seeking bargains. They don't want to buy. I shouldn't say Canadians. A certain percentage of Canadians just don't want to buy grocery products at what we might consider to be a regular price. They want a discount. They want it on promotion. Like 40% of all groceries in Canada are now bought on a promotional basis. I mean, that's amazing.
Okay. Sarah, so George makes the point that small margins, 1%. Is there a difference when we look at things like processed food versus fresh produce, or vice versa when we look at margins?
Yes, there's a big difference. So there's a lot of products that the grocer is basically selling at almost just the cost that they're buying it for. Where they can make money tends to be in bakery, in deli. Those areas they could be making a 30 or 40% margin. Batteries, maybe a 70% margin, but that's making up for selling things at a loss in a lot of other areas, because once you add in not just the cost that they buy something for, but the cost of the real estate, to paying the employees and all of that, if you sell just at what you bought it for, you're never going to be able to make money unless you have some markups in some areas, which is why we're seeing, like in some of the mid-market grocers, they're starting to beef up that deli section, the prepared food, the sushi, the bakery, because that's actually where they can make money.
Okay, but historically, I mean, was there a time when margins were bigger in this industry?
There was a time, so we have to go back about 100 years. So if we think back to, say, the 1920s or 1930s in Canada as well as in the United States, all grocery was extremely fragmented. It was moms and pops in towns with a very fragmented distribution system. And then a company that now is out of business but came in, called the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, or the A&P, and that all in Canada as well as in the United States. And they came in with a more efficient distribution model, and that led to groceries being cheaper. And it was interesting, in the 1920s, people were probably paying about 40% of their total income was going towards groceries in the home. The A&P comes in with this efficient model, and then it went down to about 30%. So what does that mean? That means that the only response for other competitors is also to consolidate. And so you got a few more in the trend that George described, a few more of these very competitive players, all then competing on price. It was interesting, when the A&P came in, they actually got brought up on U.S. antitrust charges. Normally we think of antitrust as conspiring to have artificially high prices among a few players or one player, but instead they were accused of conspiring to have artificially low prices that were putting out the mom and pops. And indeed, the mom and pops did mainly go out of business, and many people said that was anti-competitive, and other people said, well, that's creative destruction, new business models destroying old business models. But that led to this competitive landscape in the way of everyone just competing on price. And so you don't have the flexibility to just increase price to make more money, because the consumers know they can go to the next competitor and get the lower price.
So the margins will stay this low?
The margins are going to stay this low. There's no, I mean, the grocers that make more money are like a Whole Foods. They make 3 or 4%, which still sounds low, but is great for grocery, but they have a completely different model. They're charging much higher prices for a much more service-oriented experience, and not every grocer can do that. Most consumers, most shoppers these days are going for the low prices. They have to feed their families. They can't feed their families at Whole Foods.
Okay, Bruce, I haven't been leaving you out. I want to bring you in now, though. You're our brand guy. So what do brands want from grocery stores? What are they asking for in order to help them sell their goods?
Well, I think once upon a time, brands looked at grocery stores as marketing partners, in effect, the way that you see in other classes of retail. And in recent years, and by recent, I guess I probably mean 15 or 20 years, they've become competitors in a sense, in a couple of ways. One, because they compete aggressively for margin, and they want the vendor to bear as much of the cost of going to market as possible. And secondly, because in certain cases, they can use the branded products as a way to identify market opportunities for themselves in the no-name business. And when you bear in mind that a grocery retailer is essentially a landlord who sells little tiny apartments this big, it's no surprise. It's all about velocity in that game, and so it's I think become adversarial.
I want to ask you about, I'll come to you in just a minute, George, but I want to ask Bruce about something that George had said earlier, which is that they're the big three, Loblaws, Sobeys, and Metro. From a branding perspective, why do you think that is? Why do we think we only have the big three and a couple others around the margin?
Well, I wonder if it's a branding story at all, really. Because that business is so dependent on velocity, you have to be huge to survive. And I think that as Canadians in particular, we're comfortable with limited choice in certain product categories. We accept it in banks, and we accept it in breweries, and we accept it in hockey teams. And so I think there's a certain inevitability there. But what we have to be careful about is assuming that that's the whole grocery business, because it isn't. If you were to ask me what's changed in the last 10 or 15 years, one of the answers I might give you is that we have deconstructed grocery shopping pretty radically, so that 10 or 20 years ago it was assumed that I would get my groceries at Loblaws, and back in the Dave Nichols days, I would actually come home with some pride at what I had bought. Look, it's memories of Cleveland. And now groceries have become conspicuous consumption. So the things that my guests or family aren't really going to see, I'm going to buy as cheaply as I can. And the things that I'm going to post pictures of on Instagram, I'm going to be pretty careful about where I buy that, and that might not happen in a grocery store.
Okay, George, you wanted to say
Well,
something.
I was going to add to what Bruce said earlier. There was a time, probably 30, 40 years ago, where the major manufacturers of branded product could control supermarket shelves to a degree. They could dictate, basically, how much shelf space they wanted for their best-selling brands. But over the interim, over those 30 years or so, the whole thing has changed. Grocers realized that they controlled the shelves, not the manufacturers. And so that's when things began to happen, like that's when grocers began to charge manufacturers for shelf space. They began to do all kinds of things that reflected badly on the manufacturers, and manufacturers had to respond.
Okay, walk me through this, because I know nothing about this industry in terms of how I'm a brand, let's say, and I want to be on a shelf in a large grocery store. I pay that large grocery store, is what you're saying, to put my brand on a certain shelf in their store.
After you've proven that you've got some sales success, that you've got some marketing money behind you, you've got some advertising money, all that kind of stuff, you have to prove yourself, unless you've got some product that is so outstanding that the grocer says, "Ooh, wow, we've got to have this." And that actually can end up costing you a little bit less if the grocer really is excited about it. But the way the world is going these days, there's hardly anything to get really, really excited about anymore. They're just kind of knockoffs or versions of other things, a few flavor changes. So in fact, the manufacturers are under tremendous pressure by retailers, because retailers now know that they control the shelves.
Okay, Sarah, help me. What else is going on? I mean, in terms of this dynamic between brands or product and retailers.
Well, again, just to give a little bit of historical perspective, it is exactly the way that both Bruce and George have described, that historically it was very much that there was this push marketing where the branded companies made stuff and they sold it through stores. But what changed is not only that the stores realized they controlled the shelves, but they control the data. And this revolution really happened, I think, starting with Walmart, because Walmart had such an incredible information technology capability, and they realized they know what shoppers are shopping for with what combination of products, and they began to leverage that data to be able to say, we know better than you, the branded manufacturer, what we should put on the shelf. And we're going to use that data to, instead of push production, we're going to do pull production. So we're going to tell you, and it's going to get pulled through the system from us. And I think the shift was not just realizing they had the shelves, although that was incredibly important, and they do charge those slotting fees. A new product could cost $100,000 just to get on the shelf. Just you have to pay the retailer. But that's in part because of the information technology and the data that these companies then have. And Walmart really pioneered, but many retailers have really caught up with that and said, look, we know the shopper better than you do.
What else do you think, us regular people don't really understand or don't see between that relationship between brands and retail grocery stores?
Well, these days I think it is high pressure and competitive in the ways that we've been talking about, such that the retail is sort of famous for pulling dirty tricks. So retailers will very often just mark down an invoice and say, well, we know that this is what we said we were going to pay, but the exchange rate changed with Canada and the US, so we're just going to actually pay you less. Or, yes, you want to do a promotion, now you actually have to pay us to do that promotion. You want to have it in the end aisle, you have to pay us to have it at the end aisle. And all of these payments are going on. The one exception is that Walmart doesn't do this, but most of the other players do this. It makes it very difficult for the brand to, even if they have a new product launch, to decide whether they're even going to go in, because they're going to have to pay for that to put the product on the shelf.
Bruce, you want to say?
Yeah, difficult or even impossible. I mean, it's created a very risk-averse atmosphere for just the reasons you say. And what's happened over the course of that same period of time is it has become extremely expensive or impossible to access large audiences in media with advertising. Right. We sort of don't notice that as it happens. It's a bit like boiling a frog, but we wake up today and realize that if I had a new brand of potato chip and I wanted to tell the world about it, in 1958, I could buy a spot on Ed Sullivan and reach half the awake adults in North America with that. Now I'm not sure it would even be affordable to go to market and create the demand that gives me leverage with the retailer. So along the way, I have become dependent on these very hard-nosed merchants to make my business go at all.
And if you're going to try to market that potato chip, the retailer's going to say, we have potato chips. What's different about yours? Why would we possibly want to put yours?
Mine are better is what I would probably
why
say,
would we
right?
want to put yours on our shelf?
right,
You know?
that's right.
And
You
if
know,
I say mine are better, that doesn't count for much?
Well, you'd have to prove that it was better.
Oh, right.
You'd have to prove it.
I want to ask you, Bruce, about product placement. We hear that term all the time. How does that sort of fit into this story that we're talking about?
Well, a lot of product placement is an alternative, sometimes a desperate alternative to conventional advertising. You know, the orthodoxy goes that if I put my product on a television show that everybody watches and everybody sees that on the show, then not only do I get the exposure, but I get the implied endorsement of the stars, or I get some value from the context. But fundamentally, it's trying to achieve the same thing. You talk about these terms, push and pull. Essentially, what they mean is, push is I try to sell my product into a channel of distribution and hope people find it on the shelf and buy it. Pull is I try to create demand so that they go in and ask for it. And that latter formula has become difficult. Product placement is just a way to try to keep it going.
Okay, you want to say
I wanted to build on that because there's another form of product placement that's in the advertising, but then when you actually get the product placed in the store, we know very much, and you know this probably better than I, the things that are at eye level people buy, and the things that are down by your feet people don't buy or too high, and so getting onto the shelf then in the right location becomes
right.
everything.
They put kids' cereals lower because it's at eye level for
exactly.
kids.
You completely can shift demand by what gets at eye level.
And that is not a determination I get to make as the maker of the product. The grocery store
unless
decides
you
it.
pay for
but
that.
But I pay for that.
Or in some grocers will allow a certain brand to be a category captain, and they will get to decide. Category captain means breakfast cereal. You get to run all of breakfast cereal. You decide how the product should be placed in the displays and what's going to make things sell better. And if you are the category captain, which maybe you had to pay for also, or if you don't pay directly for it, you have to pay for it by hiring staff to do the analysis on it. Then you can actually shape a little bit that. But that's the prime real estate, is the eye level real estate.
This brings up another complete, well, it's not a completely different thought, but one of the things that's happened in Canada with the tremendous power that the big retailers are exercising is there's a slow but building movement to have a retail code of conduct in Canada. And I don't even think it's on the subject for today's discussion, but manufacturers are very much interested in pursuing the idea of a retail code of conduct, and as surprisingly, at the opposite end, independent grocers are interested in having a retail code of conduct, modeled after the one in Britain and the one in Australia, where in Britain, for example, a retailer cannot charge a manufacturer for preferred shelf space against the law. But in Canada, they do. Like, for instance, to be a category captain, it could cost you an arm and a leg to be a category captain, but you might want to do that so you can control that part of the shelf space.
Would that help consumers, though?
It should help consumers because it prevents things like retroactive charging discounts on invoices. Sarah mentioned in grocery parlance, they're called unexplained deductions, and they're happening all the time. But for example, one big retailer last year issued a statement to manufacturers saying, going back 6 months, we're now going to deduct 2% off your invoice. The code of conduct wouldn't allow that.
Why did they? Just because?
Oh yeah, just because they wanted to make more money. You know, trying to get more money. You know, if you discount the invoice, you're going to make more money.
And as a manufacturer, you have no recourse.
No.
I read something else that if you know, something is on the flyer, the front page of a flyer at one retailer, and I go to my other retailer and say, look, these guys are selling it for less, and then they price match, which is very commonplace now, that the manufacturer is on the hook for that price difference. Is that true?
Yes, that's very typical, that what the manufacturer will have to do deals with each of the retailers, saying that if your product is sold more cheaply at another grocer and we have to price match, you have to pay the difference on that. So they're effectively, and so in a way, the vendors are trying to push back. They've started to issue memos that are outlining, how their products shouldn't be sold below a certain price and things like that. Of course, the Competition Bureau is a little interested in those memos too. So it's very complicated. The vendors are really trying to figure out how to push back on a number of these practices, but they are not in the driver's seat right now. They're just not. The retailers are in the driver's seat. They have more power. They have the access to the consumer. So they can, the only thing that some retailers, some manufacturers can do is if they really have that prime brand, like P&G with Tide. Everyone has to have Tide, so P&G is going to have a little bit more
Procter
power.
Gamble, yeah.
Procter & Gamble, yes, is going to have a little bit more power. Nestle's Delicio Pizza. Everyone has to have Delicio Pizza, so Nestle has a little bit of power there. But it's pretty
This seems
rare.
like the little guy has really no chance, though, or not a lot of leverage. So when you say things like P&G, these are the big players, the big
and we're talking about the big players hardly have any much leverage. So yes, the little guy, unless they do exactly what we're talking about, is something very special. I have a very unique product. I have a high-end product that as a must-have when I'm serving the gourmet cheese and wine for whatever it is, then you can have a special place. But if you're just trying to go up against other big brands, no.
Okay, here's another one for you folks. And Bruce, let me go to you on this one. No matter where I am in this country, when I walk into a grocery store, not a small grocery store, but a medium, they all look the same. The layout is the same. The produce is over here. The dairy's on that side. That's intentional, right? Like from a branding perspective, let's start with you.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think it's in the retailer's best interest for the consumer to feel familiar in that environment as quickly as they can. And then you add in imperatives like shelf position and the privileges of display that brands have paid for, and it's not surprising that big grocery stores are going to look more alike than different. And I'm not sure I would have the nerve to innovate in that situation at all.
All right, George. I mean, Bruce is scared. He says innovation's not a good thing in this market.
Well, a number of retailers around the world have tried different things. I don't know how successful they were. There was one I think it was in Holland, where there was a circular pattern to the way they laid out the store. I have no idea what happened with that, but there have been attempts to change the layout. But I think Bruce is right. I think that familiarity is really important. Like you know that if you go into a supermarket and you're looking for something and it's not where it was before, do you get upset?
Yes.
I mean, everybody gets upset. And you go run around trying to find a clerk. Well, where's the peanut butter? It used to be there.
Yeah. Why is tomato paste and tomato sauce in two different aisles? I don't understand that.
Exactly. And so that's one reason why there's been a consistency in recent years in the way supermarkets are laid out. And part of it was driven originally by Loblaws, who said you don't want to open a supermarket without a really terrific produce display up front. If you have produce up front and you have the other other fresh departments around the periphery, then you've got it made. Because people go to the produce, then they go around the outside, and you shop all the fresh products, meaning dairy, deli, meat, bakery, all that around the outside, and then they wander up and down the aisles, So yeah, it's familiarity, I think.
I think what's going to maybe change that, though, is this move in the mid-markets to be adding more deli, more prepared food. And I mean, if you take, for example, Maple Leaf Gardens, Loblaws sort of concept store.
This is the downtown
in Toronto
store, yeah.
Exactly. That is going to change how we shop a little bit, because they're creating kind of this marketplace within a market. And so I think that's where the innovation is probably going to come.
And deli is already beginning to move toward the center of the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself whether that innovation is a bit of a vanity, because when you look at grocery more broadly, so not just the class of trade that we're familiar with, but everything from drugstores and dollar stores to Amazon, you see that the social consensus around where you buy your groceries is breaking down all the time, and consumers are being trained by that, if I can use that rather ugly word. They're being trained by that it actually doesn't matter where you buy your groceries. And if it doesn't matter where you buy your groceries, then an enhanced grocery store experience is a bit of an empty gesture, if that makes sense.
We only got a couple of minutes left, but I started this part of our show talking about Target exiting the market. Bruce, you predicted Target wasn't going to make it here in Canada a couple of years back. I just want to end off by asking each one, I mean, Target exiting, is that going to change anything in our grocery landscape?
I don't think Target exiting is what changed the grocery landscape. I think it was the idea that Target was entering that changed it. So Target had been looking for a long time. Then they announced they were coming. It took them a while to actually enter. And in that time, the grocery landscape changed. So Loblaws buys Shoppers Drug Mart. You see Sobeys buying Safeway in the West. You see Walmart going wholesale into grocery by converting to supercenters. And all of that change was happening almost in anticipation of Target. So I think that's what made the shift. I think the exit we'll have to sort out the real estate and obviously sort out the jobs for the 17,000 plus people who are laid off, but I don't think that's going to change the landscape.
The other thing is Target never really struck it with the Canadian population for food. Their food sales were not nearly what they expected. So the loss of Target is not a great loss as far as food shelves go, meaning supermarket shelves. That'll be gobbled up in no time at all by Loblaws, by Sobeys, by Walmart as they expand their offerings. So it's a wash. I don't think it's going to make any difference at all.
Bruce, you got about 20 seconds. What do you want to say about Target?
About Target, you know what? Target's mistake, I think, was that they thought it was going to be easy, and our discussion has just proven that that was a folly.
Okay, I want to thank all three of you. Sarah Kaplan, Bruce Philp, George Condon, thank you. Nice discussion.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.